All right, greetings and welcome back to Hammage's Hardcore Vanilla Minecraft. Hope you guys enjoyed the last little break. I had a lot of fun. I yanked a splinter that I can't really account for out of my palm, kind of right below my pinky on one of my hands. So that was weird. I kind of had noticed it a little bit. I was like, huh, wow, that's something there jammed in my skin. So I had some fun with tweezers. Still lightly flurrying outside, so a good one to be indoors. And as it afternoon deepens into evening, happy to be sharing this time with you guys. I hope you enjoy. With that said, let's get after it. We still have loads more fun to enjoy. Here we go, off and on our way back into the world. So, as we had kind of concluded in our last episode, we spread out some chests. We're really ready to take this farming thing all the way on out, but we need a bit more stone to cook as we go. And that, we'll continue to do so. Our carrots over here, we can continue to harvest and plant in their new field of their own. Excuse the hiccup. I also had some lukewarm coffee. Hopefully it's not too late and willing to do that, but should make this playthrough a exciting caffeinated jolt. We'll see. It's not. It's kind of that, if it was a beautiful day, you'd be saying it was still late afternoon. Since it's overcast and flurrying, it feels a little more like early evening. But either way you look at it, it's a great opportunity to play some Minecraft. So let's make the most of it. And I think what we'd like to do is kind of continue to maintain our balance of adventure and improvements. And in this case, the improvements part may come at the beginning. We'll see how far we want to go. We're somewhat at the mercy of our stone cooking, and as we've said a couple times, the presence of the furnaces down at the mining level, level 11, aren't the real factor. Obviously, it's we could put in just a few pieces of coal into each one, do a whole batch of stone, and be on our way. But I think to address that need of coal, we'll maybe look to make our adventure part of this episode underground and go delving deep for primary, not super deep. Not quite to the diamond, although we absolutely want more of that. Now we've already got cobble ready to go, as we had from the last one. We're close here, but while we're waiting, let's just go pick a little bit at this. It's been something, each time I approach from the opposite side, I want to just take this down to level, and I don't know yet. I probably should just fill it back in with snow so we don't have to hop up and down every time we go over it. But what I want to do there, is it some kind of stone? Maybe hold out for a more interesting paver type thing, something that we could throw down there and make a nice little deck. But I definitely didn't like the ridge. This is our commanding view, and I think we're a little thin on the birches. We talked about that when we were over in the birch forest, that we don't have any saplings. I love our forested area here, but I wonder about maybe taking him so that we have more of a view out to the sea. I don't know. We've got some. Let's go start the stone again. And maybe we'd take out that gravel too. We can talk all we want, but we really want to cook stone. So the next thing I just recalled we should probably go check is out this way. Too far to grow? That doesn't seem like enough yet. I don't know. What do you guys think here? I expected we'd have a lot more bamboozle, or have been bamboozled to reach that. I got a little. I mean, see, watch it. It's gonna grow up here as we're just messing around, but hasn't done much yet. But this, I just said, yeah, it'll probably be the. We'll do our gardening first, and then we'll switch into adventure. You know what? When adventure comes calling, we answer. We say, let's go. And in this case, adventure just may mean a couple pockets of coal right on the edge of the beach. But it doesn't matter if it's a big or a little adventure. The important thing is that we answered the call. Well, a little bit more than we just saw right from the entrance, but not a ton. I'd still take it though. We, as we said, we definitely need as much coal as we can get in our mitts to fuel those furnaces and everything else that we want as we press forward here. So not an unwelcome find, and maybe as we go, our bamboo will finally get around to growing. It's a bit of a shame, if that's too distant from home to get growing. And again, that raises the question we talked about a little bit: do spawn chunks affect growth of plants, or trees, or if it comes to it, animals? Do they grow up any quicker because they're in spawn chunks or not? I don't know. I spent my time digging splinters out of my hand, not researching Minecraft nonsense. So we shall see. But for now, let's keep trimming a little bit. As you can see, when we're here and it's growing, it comes pretty quick, and you get a new piece for each of the segments, and then can plant those segments all individually. So I don't know the numbers at 16 high that bamboo can grow. Could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So we'll just cut in here. Now, for bamboo, I just like to go 2s. Its thickness, in density, maybe in the way that it grows in the game, is reflected by the fact that once grown, you can work your way between plants, but depending on where, see how this one is kind of in the upper left, here's the dirt block, and it's in the upper left, so they can fall in any one of the 4, and here you see you get 2 together. You can't go between those, but you can go between those. Well, that can make navigating through wide areas of bamboo a little difficult. So rather than struggling with that too much myself, I just like to make it that it's, kind of out there and reachable. And even, with sugar cane, I usually leave a gap in between for torches. Here, I just put the torches between two sides and grow them up from there. And, bamboo is so... so this is... Even in real life, I could grow bamboo. It's so easy to have loads up very quickly, as you can see, but it's gotta be growing when we do it. So we're kind of doing this exploratorily, if that's the right right word. We want to know if by expanding the crop out this way, is there a point at any of these where it will continue to mature even if we're back at home? I don't know. I'm working with a lot of variables here that I'm not too sure of. Not the least of which is whether spawn chunks even matter, much less if we're on the edge of them here as opposed to right on the beach. I don't know, but the real hope, and I think we've already seen some evidence to this, is that the stone has continued to cook while we come over and look here and play in the caves and gather a coal. We got 41 pieces of that, not too bad, and happy to have them. So, boom. Again, little birch tree. I don't know. Cal, what do you think? You like the birch? Maybe keep it for a while? We don't have to rush. We'll see. Now we got more dirt. That's getting to be a problem. So is all the stuff that we don't have time to cook because we're cooking the stone. But, I don't know. Was that making progress either? I'm questioning everything. At least we got full coal back in there. Let's shovel up. That wasn't it. Was it? There's the other shovel. I don't think we actually lifted that back out. You can't just close the window. So our next project to keep us busy here in the midst of the last stages of farm construction is we want to get set up for trees out in the same area where we originally set up our trees, and this may be the spot where we use some of our dirt. Kind of get a feel for the contours, and I think this gives us enough room from that original tree. Original tree doesn't have anything to do with the likelihood or not of getting bee nests in other trees. They all function independently. What you have to get bee nests is saplings growing up in a biome that supports them. So we're in a plains biome. As I say, let's make sure we're not in river or anything like that. But plains is a valid biome for trees. Now it may not be. I don't know the exact odds of everything, but I do think a flower forest has the best chance producing a bee nest. And I don't think that's just because there are flowers there. I think there's some order of preference for the biomes. I think. Don't put my feet in the fire if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding at least, is that you have a chance on And I think the plains is one of them where, yeah, it can happen. And if you grow enough trees, um, you're gonna get bee nests. But if all things are equal, you can get more bee nests if you grow them in biomes that favor them a little bit more. Again, maybe not. Maybe making that up. What I do know is, in order for that to happen, you have to have a sapling grow up in proximity to a flower. And so what I like to do, once I've just gotten past that base need, I need to grow some trees so I can cut them back down and have wood. And we've got a few stacks of logs. We're not drowning in wood yet, but we've got some variety of saplings, and we've got certainly a few trees. So we want to make this more intentionally a potential bee nest farm. And again, once we get Silk Touch, we can move those nests over to our fields, and then the bees will do the work of accelerating our crop maturation. So now we're just checking the biomes a bit. It seems to pretty exactly follow the blocks, and you kind of expect that, but sometimes you can get nasty surprises at the thresholds between. I think we are going to want to fill in that lake, and again, we've got more than enough dirt to build up. So I kind of think that this may end up being our level, and then we'll just kind of step down into desert as a way to eat up some of this excess dirt that we have. Can always get more dirt, right? So let's just start in this pond. Because again, as we keep this screen up, I'm just constantly looking to see if any, it's obvious, fairly obvious when you see the grass or the sand, which is which is desert, which is plains. We want to give that a fairly wide margin, so we'll do whatever terracing down to the level of the desert on our plain side. I think one, it'll look kind of nicer, and two, it will give our trees a little bit of a cushion. I think we're going to have loads of space for these trees to grow up. But as we do that, here, we want to make sure that we're not potentially confusing ourselves later. Oh yeah, look, we got a bunch of trees and they never grew bees. Why is that? Oh, because we put dirt over the desert and confused ourselves. So we'll be a little liberal. We'll happily pull the edges back into the towards the plains from the desert before we reach our tree area, so it's not just an abrupt hill. We can afford here to play with it a little bit and make it look nice, or at least as nice as it can be. But again, it's going to be a lit up tree farm / gradually increasingly bee colony that we go. So let's just free form a little bit of angle here, so we get a straight line. And all we're really trying to do is stay nice and organic, not not going back. I don't particularly want dips in it. And just, you know, so many of my constructions, I'm totally guilty of this, become a one-for-one angled hillside that I have lots of ability to climb up and out of danger, and they're softer than just big cliffs. They don't impact transport, but they do become pretty stationary as I go. So we'll fill in there and then kind of see where our next level goes. Again, this is going to give us a few fairly straight runs of trees, and that's what we want. It's again going to be a very familiar grid type pattern, but will be interspersed between excuse me, let me go mute that real quick. Hey, sorry about that, guys. Left the phone obviously unmuted, as you may have picked up on, and sorry about that. Yeah. Hopefully rectified that. It's felt bad. Usually I am pretty accessible. This isn't something I'm just hyping up to my in-person acquaintances. For one thing, I think it's a little tough to you put a lot of pressure on your real world friends to say, hey, I'm just starting up a YouTube channel. And they, if any of them know anything about it, they know, hey man, they need it. So they're going to know you in the real world, and they're going to look at the view counts and things like that, just like other people may, and go, oh yeah, it's at this. Oh, are you still going to do that? And a lot of them immediately jump to the assumption that a YouTube channel is specifically for a career, and they don't. They may. I think everybody uses YouTube one way or another, but they may not understand that. There's a lot of live video games and that kind of stuff that do get processed out. So it's not like I've gone around and told a lot of people after 2 weeks, hey, by the way, for hours of the day I'm gonna have my phone on mute. You can't get a hold of me, but I'll call you back. And this is what I'm doing. At some point, yeah, if it becomes something, you get it going. But it. I think like any hobby, think about it. If you were going to, I don't know, try painting, right? And not just, oh, hey, I went to one of those learn to paint in an evening dinner type things, and we all made watercolors, and it was cool. Here's mine. Here's my dates. And they're kind of, yeah, good job. You really did that one. It's if it was something you were really trying to artistically do, and you had just really picked up paintbrushes, and maybe you've gone to some classes, or maybe you've looked at some info online, and you've kind of learned about color matching and techniques and things like that, and you think, hey, this is something I could do decently well, but the still life you tried to do of a bowl of fruit looks more like the the Muppets in front of the curtain or something like that. I don't know. I'm just struggling a little bit for an example, but I'm certainly not something I want to completely hide away, but I know, since it's a new novelty thing, the first thing, if you say, hey, I started doing some recordings for YouTube, the first thing people are going to say, oh yeah, what's your thing? I want to go check it out. Well, I don't want, one, people inadvertently in an attempt to enthusiastically support to maybe inadvertently comment with things that may, not that I'm overly concerned, but that may inadvertently lead people to, who I actually am, all that kind of stuff. One of the first things that you learn, and if you're my age and you grew up and, all this internet stuff blew up when you were an adult, you kind of accepted it because it was new, and you've always processed it was, hey man, if these things go up online, they're out there. And I think you as generations have grown up in the internet age since then, you see a lot of people that doesn't even register because everything in their lives has been online, to the point where, for a long period, and I think it's kind of died back now. I think the adults who look out for the welfare of children have learned that kids growing up in the internet age are going to make a certain series of mistakes that we all make as humans, but they're going to do it in a way that is much more visible, and it's not fair to hold them to an adult level of scrutiny in some of those kind of things. And I'm kind of talking back in the day, and honestly, I don't know if people still do all these kind of things, but the sexting and the selfies and that kind of stuff that are indecent. I think for a period at least, they were. The world was surprised that, oh my God, why would kids voluntarily just put these things either out there or not realize that the ones that you privately text to a high school boyfriend or girlfriend are more than likely going to then get published to everyone else when that relationship inevitably, and I say that tongue in cheek, obviously some high school sweethearts remain married for 50, 60 years and, tell their grandkids about how wonderful it's been. And awesome, that's so cool for them. Well, it's the exception. That's why it's so cool. When those things do happen, and when they're celebrated because usually most people relate to the idea that you have a high school or childhood sweetheart. By the time, a few long, passionate months have gone by, it's going to have ended in flames, more than likely. And that too is just a part of growing up. But, we as a little bit older generation cringe and look at this and go, oh my God, these kids don't know. And for a moment, the policy of people was to treat that as you would treat adults. There's just nothing else out there to do to process it, and that was I think I don't know. Again, I don't have kids. Thank God I didn't have to live through any of that. But I think it's there was probably a period, it has parallels to the changing attitudes to, some of the recreational use of marijuana and stuff. And, there's certainly stories of people whose lives were impacted, through criminal justice systems and all that, because what is now widely socially acceptable was for a time treated as a major narcotic event. And so we learn as a society as these things and technologies emerge, but you kids are ahead in adopting that. As you're growing up, hey, the thing I most want to do is get close to this boy, girl, whatever that I currently have a crush on, and you're less inhibited. You're exploring the feelings, and so you just, hey, here you go, and all of a sudden those are out there, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle, or you can't reclose Pandora's box. Some of those kind of things. So it's a little bit that kind of case, and in my case, I think once you have personal information out there, and you may hear me pause in some of my stories and things like that, because I do want to avoid eager people or people that just kind of do it for the kicks early on. You discover the internet. That's one of the kind of joke references. Oh, look, Timmy's discovered the internet. He got out there. It's usually used for the people that just can't wait to start talking about genitalia in a chat room when there's no context, and it's just, hey, look, nobody's watching me. I can swear and I can say all these things. I can be insulting to people and nobody knows who I am. Blah 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 blah. So you're taking your privacy and to some extent your well-being in your own hands, because while that kid may not care and think about you anymore because they've moved on to the next content creator to try to figure out who they are and go, ha ha ha, I know your private information, blah, 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 I'm going to publish it. It's best not to get it out there, because there may be, identity thieves or people that are just a little insecure or a little overly adamant that then find out and can watch and kind of slowly put together details about your life, and you may all of a sudden find that kind of stalkery fan showing up and going, oh man, I've watched all these episodes, I know everything about you, blah 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 blah. Well, take this with a grain of salt, and it's not just me, it's all streamers out there. They're choosing to put a part of their lives onto camera, and I'm trying to be entirely genuine. This is just kind of my thoughts, and I let them wander even beyond where oftentimes I would intend to when I start out. I don't sit down and go, I wonder if this time I should talk about friends' phone calls in the middle of a recording session. As I've said, I don't have the ability, the knowledge yet to. I gotta switch these to even pause my video, so I just had to mute it and go answer the phone. And I know that's invasive on you guys enjoying the session, and I apologize for that. I will improve. I'm sure I'll get some software to help me deal with that occurrence, but in the meantime, I want to apologize to you guys and say, yeah, I apologize, but I also am juggling the fact that, this is not my job. It's not, while I've been doing it with the enthusiasm of and novelty of it being new very regularly, and, probably more due to the bad weather than I even would if it was nice out. But I like it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm really legitimately doing it without any hope of return, other than that people out there who enjoy this game find a new stream to kind of listen to, and that maybe my thoughts trigger thoughts of your own, and if I go live, you'll seek that out, and we can engage in a dialogue. So that's kind of my whole purpose, but I'm not at the point where I want to just tell my real life counterparts that, hey, I just started doing this. I certainly struggle in comparison to others, and unless you really enjoy the game, you're not gonna get it. not that I'm ashamed, and they all certainly know that more than any of the rest of them, I play Minecraft, and as their kids have, grown up, it's like, hey, oh, you play do you play hard? No, I don't play hardcore, man. Either you play hardcore, that's so frustrating. I would never play hardcore, or you only play hardcore vanilla, man. I mod this, or if you're not playing mini games, you're totally out of, kids change their taste pretty quickly. Me, I watch them grow up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm still playing hardcore Minecraft. It's right out there. So it's not something I hide, but it's also not one of those things that talking about when I meet up with friends for dinner, or go out and do something these days, like go for a hike, or play some disc golf or something like that. We're talking about news and life and those kind of things, not what video games I've been playing or what I've been doing in those video games. It's something you move beyond, and I think, like any hobby, is more enjoyably discussed as a topic of conversation with others who share that enjoyment than it would be just left out to completely its own devices. If that even remotely makes sense. Now here I'm kind of going one by one off the thing. Maybe we'll just break that just a bit. Because I'd said, we don't want to exactly follow the contours of the level below, but I also do want to, kind of have a, oh man, not too many, straight angles and that kind of stuff, but here we are at the edge, and yeah, I think we got there. So we'll see. Well, we'll do some dressing around the outside. We just need to fill in this hole and then see what we've got in terms of area for our trees and get them started as we can. So anyway, just closing back, if you've created any content and you find this, I'd certainly, as I've said, look forward to comments that may point me to your work. And I won't promise to watch all of it. I wouldn't expect that out of anyone here. But if you find the play style enjoyable and want to follow along, I welcome it. But for those who are doing the same and kind of out there exploring others that are enjoying this kind of play style, let me know what for you are your friends others, do you kind of seek out friends IRL that also enjoy this? So it is just even before you started creating content, what you guys talked about offline. Or do you have friends where it's kind of I want to keep these worlds a little more separate and just until the time may be right or necessitates it. But that's kind of it. And again, what I'm going to struggle with is unless I've silenced my phone, and it is just that, right? If I silence the phone and I never know that call came in, and I do, I can't go so removed. It's on vibrate, and it's what I used to do. This is a tip for any of you that still have an on-call type responsibility in your jobs. And it started with me back when I had to carry an actual pager. That would have the tone and the vibrate options, right? And I think everybody's familiar with those from your phones. Get out of the hole. When you have an on-call And I don't care what it is or what the responsibility is. If you're on call for a job, my piece of advice is you better own that. That is a responsibility, and you're saying I am the contact that will be on the lookout. In me, it was always systems of some kind that as an IT or communications type person, I was responsible for. Are there potential outages? But you can be on call for a lot of different things. I know a lot of facilities type managers that are on call for their residents. If it's something as minor as a light bulb that they can't reach or are not responsible for, but it could be something as important as heat or water. Toilets overflowing. Quick. And that's one thing I had to adapt to in apartment life that I really hadn't gotten used to it. First of all, the fact that the people would actually prefer that you call them instead of just doing your own maintenance. For me, I have a lot of the tools still. Just having lived in houses as an adult, and always having understood that you have a toolbox. It doesn't matter what you're an adult. It's kind of like having keys or glasses or keeping yourself physically clean every day. You have certain responsibilities as an adult. One of those is to have some basic tools that you can make sure that you can meet the necessities of life on a regular basis. So you have a set of wrenches, and you have a couple, Phillips and flathead screwdrivers. You have some duct tape and things like that. They're just pieces you're better off having at all times than not having. So, anyway, I had to adjust to that when people are on call for whatever reasons, they're taking the ownership. And, if you're in a facilities type maintenance role, and whether it's for a business or for, a residential type property, if you're a property management company, or it can be anything. If you're the on call for a business that has regular hours, but maybe in the case of an emergency, please call this. And whether it's through your management or just as part of the staff, you have a rotation where every so often you have to be responsible for that on-call and own it. You need to be sure that if it's the middle of the night or whatever else, that however your company or group maintains that notification, whether it's forwarding to a phone nowadays is kind of the most common, or watching an email distribution with notifications, or whatever. When it's your job to be alerted when that goes, be responsible, take ownership of your role, and make sure that you don't miss those notifications. There's nothing anybody, customers most of all, but your managers or whoever, they don't want to hear, "Oh, I'm sorry, I totally slept through the notification." One, sadly, that it's gonna happen. People use that, but unfortunately, you also kind of come to know who the people are that are gonna do it. You can almost predict it. Some people will never let that happen, and you know those people from the start. Whether you say it about, they are the dependable ones, and it really doesn't have anything to do with whether they're particularly skillful or gifted or anything else in whatever their job is. Dependability, independent of everything else, is something where it's a manifestation of the ownership of a responsibility. Whether it's part of a job or to your family or just to yourself or your community, you take ownership of that. Sorry, I know I'm pausing in the middle of my story. I'm just wondering if this is what I wanted to do. I don't think so. I think I wanted to go here. Let's go to the shovel. Speed it up a little bit. Mistake. Again, so many. You get to talking, man, and it's tough. But anyway, dependability. If you've got a responsibility to be on call, you, at a minimum, the first thing is you have at a minimum responsibility to be aware if that, page, text, email, phone call, whatever it is, however, when you're responsible on an off shift, not just sitting in the office, you better be aware when that comes in. In today's day and age, there's no excuse for you to be out unreachable in an on-call situation. Listen, if you've got an on-call responsibility for a week, then that's not the time you're going to go on vacation to a, major or a remote rural area. It's not the time you're going to go spelunking in a cave. It's, that's your time to hang out at home during the downtime and play some good video games that you haven't played in a while. Just anything you can hit a pause button on and be available for. So own that and embrace it and find cool things to do while that may be a possibility. But the very long roundabout way, I got kind of ranty again. The reason or the way that you can easily prevent that is whether it's your phone or, back in the day, a pager. I don't think anybody uses pagers anymore, but, if you do, if you're not going to let go, go ahead and I had a kind of felt line coaster that I would just put a little bit of pocket change in. If you, it could be all pennies, right? It doesn't have to be anything of value. That's not important. You just want some change in that. I don't know why this is so difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what do we? 1, 3, 4, 5. It's the same thing as always. It's just staggered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Now we just need a block in there first. So put some change in a freaking ashtray. Put your phone in it, and even if you've got the beep, whatever the notification is for your on-call, let the vibrate in the change be your backup. You can endure or surprisingly sleep through beeps. If you get tired enough, or if you're in the shower or anything like that, you can kind of roll your head over, especially when you're new to being on call. And how invested you are is another thing. The CEO of the company knows what's really there. Your boss may be looking over your shoulder when you first get started and kind of getting those same notifications as a safety net. They may not, though, and that's why you need to look out for it. But you owe it to yourself and to them to make sure that, if you get a notice and it wakes you up in the middle of the night, that you respond to it. And that's really what it's all about. Oh, this is 3. That'll get us a start. We've been talking and ranting about this for a while, but it sounded a little more of a deal. And if you can't tell, I've certainly had people in my career that have been accountable for being on call, and have we've had to have talks, and I've had to have talks with my boss, going up the chain of why didn't that get dealt with when it was no big deal? Why did our customers have to come and tell us that there was a problem? That's the thing nobody wants to deal with in any business, And yeah, if you're facilities and you're working for residential people, um, you never know. But in that sense, think of in every local place loves this. Beginning of winter, news teams will actively go out and solicit stories from residents, and usually, it's slum landlord kind of building stuff, and it's frankly, when I look at that kind of journalism, I kind of go, you guys aren't doing much better here. But they're basically trying to um, make their own news off of crappy landlords that may house a bunch of underprivileged families, but they're if you're a landlord, you're accountable for providing basic services to your residents. And some of those, I don't want to overflower until I know I have enough. Heat, electric, water, sewer, all those things. When you're a property manager, you have a deal. When you're in a more traditional corporate environment, if you work for a company, tech and telecom are kind of my industries, but if you work in those, you have an obligation to your customers. They're paying for a service and expect that they will, have a product that's running. And if your support of that doesn't need to be fully staffed overnight and through the weekends and all that kind of stuff, then you're gonna have to have people on call in case issues arise. Issues are gonna arise; they always do. That's the nature of it. That's why support is not a bad gig to be in. Through everything else, there will be a need for people um, to support, technologies, applications, healthcare, all those kinds of systems and things. They are subject to breakdown and needing maintenance and all that good stuff. So, good work if you can get it and have an aptitude for it. Usually the people on it are great, and as long as you understand that some of the issues that can be caused when those services are not available um, cause stress for people, but they're not intentionally trying to be jerks to you. They just need a result quickly. Um, it can be very rewarding to work with people in that capacity. So I love that, and I don't want to reflect that being on call is a problem, or that I was ever in a situation where my people or my peers that I worked with weren't accountable. But it does, it happens, and you feel bad. If somebody's on call and they sleep through a page, they feel terrible. That's the first thing is they know. It's obvious. You can plead ignorance, but people didn't tell you to be on call because they wanted you to get a good night's sleep. They wanted you to deal with whatever issues may come up. And so when everybody's human. I say it like, oh yeah, you can kind of know who's going to do it. Well, you can know who may lean on that excuse repeatedly. That's what I should have said all along. It's the people that are chronically using that as an excuse for why they didn't do what they said they were going to do, or what. They're the same people that have excuses for everything. We all know those kind of people. I'm not trying to badmouth them. They're probably good people in lots of other capacities, but there is a factor there. And, if you don't want to initially be thrown into that category, and if you miss a page, I'm sorry, but, as someone who's been responsible for teams of people that have to be on call or acknowledge pages and stuff like that, I gotta say, the reality is once you've missed pages or things like that, you've got to relearn with a respect that says, yeah, this person is dependable. Now they just need to to kind of bring that back to common knowledge, because they've now got a history that says they at times may not be. And it's, again, I think unless you're just a jerk, whether you're a manager or a boss or a customer or anything else, you will go, oh man, that person had a bad day, and it's nothing more than that. Let's leave it at that, and move on. Well, we'll get them next time, kind of stuff. Or if you're a customer and you're on the other end of that, and you have trouble getting a hold of support, but they reach out to you and oh, I'm sorry, it took a long time to get there. Cut them some slack. Understand that those are people too, and more than likely they don't even know who you are until they've got you on the phone and are pulling up your account in a ticketing system. They're not psychic, and the best of them will happily try to make your life better, make the problem go away, but they aren't magicians, and they didn't break whatever it was. So treat them like a human being, and you'll find that as someone who's come from there, a smile and a friendly word gets you a lot more than picking up the phone and screaming. These are not people that are usually, when you're the guy on the phones, you're new to the, you may not just be inexperienced, and that's why a lot of people just start with yelling, right? They're not unfailing logic is that you're going to make me jump through hoops and answer a bunch of validation questions and read a script that you don't really know the reasons behind before I actually talk to somebody who knows this product inside and outside. And it's really the truth. Hot tech secret here. When you do push through, if you yell and scream enough, you will eventually, you'll leave somebody in tears along the way, or not, depending on their personality, right? You'll either leave somebody in tears, or you'll leave somebody storming out of the office after they've slammed down their headset with a bunch of curses, making their coworkers feel uncomfortable, and running outside the building to, at best, maybe puff on a cigarette, or these days, you guys with your vapes or whatever they are, running outside to do unhealthy things because of stress relief, or at worst, go, I'm sick of this, I'm leaving, you can't pay me enough to deal with these jerks, and they quit, what could be a very rewarding career. So, if you find yourself on the other end of that call, and maybe maybe you're fortunate enough that you never had to work in support. Although I have very happily worked in support in various capacities for a long time. So don't go out of your way to be a jerk. People understand that if you're talking to them in their role, things have already gone bad, right? You're not just calling to say, hey, guess what? I just wanted to chat and tell you how awesome I think your product is. It's so cool. That's what salespeople, that's what the marketing department, all those people that think they have a tough job just because they live on commission. But, guess what? They go travel to customer sites because they have to have face-to-face meetings. And, those happen on a golf course. And usually they're reaffirming, making the person feel good about money they already spent, in the hopes that they will go get next ones. Also having had some visibility to sales, that's, while you're trying to get new business, the winner, veteran salespeople, and usually it's all a little bit pyramidical. You very quickly will get people that are feeding your results with their own sales in a sales world. So life's real good. If you're good at sales, and I can do it, but it's not something that I genuinely enjoy enough to um, to really thrive at. You may not guess it, for anybody that can talk this much in hours of gameplay, but if you met me IRL, we were at a restaurant, I'd probably be the fairly quiet guy at the table. I do listen and then want to hear what other people are saying. Get a few drinks in anybody, and most kinds of tendencies loosen up a little bit, but for the most part, I tend to be a little more quiet, and it's not I think artificially, people will say, and for those of you guys that maybe a little younger in school or anything like that, you see somebody that's quiet at a in a class, or at a party or at a dinner or anything like that, and you think, oh, they're standoffish, or either you think that they're snobbish, they think they're too good for the others around, or they're shy and they don't want to interact. And while that may be true, I certainly don't expect everybody to be gregarious and outgoing. I do, as I also said, in real life, I really do like people. I like getting to know new people with different backgrounds, and I think that's some of the real. Oh, I need I need those carrots. I think that's some of the real excitement of life is learning new stories about people. As I've said, as a person who studied history, but is has worked in what I laughingly call the paying professions. History, that what I studied really became more of a lifelong passion than a thing. I didn't go to grad school or anything for it, but that was my graduate degree. And if I can speak, not without turning my tongue into knots, I definitely think, it's one of those that, and people probably have the same opinion about music or art history, some of those kind of things. You laugh and go, well, why don't you go to school for business? You adapt to the business field, or at least tech. You seem to have an aptitude for computers and stuff. And the answer is, at the time, I didn't know those kind of things. I I know my dad had always worked. He's an engineer by trade. So, and growing up, I absolutely reviled anything that had to do with math. I thought, oh, it was like hell. Anytime that, and it went way back, and I don't know. I know math is, basic math has totally changed. The parents and all are like, too, man, I can't even help my kid with their math homework. It's all different now. Everything is totally changed, and that's, I think too bad, but I think at least for a large part of the population, math is taught entirely wrong. It's taught as functions and black and white, right and wrong. Here's you when at least when I was a kid, you started, and as soon as you could count and add, they threw flashcards and multiplication tables at you, and you had to rote memorize. Oh, I still absolutely remember 7 times 3 is 21 was one of the first things that I actually retained and could rely on. I could kind of play around in the multiplication tables from there. And while I have never been particularly gifted at instant recall, I'm happy to this day that, sorry, bumped the mic there, that I did have to force myself to endure. Awful. Hang on one second. first bump the mic, then lift it after you bump it as you apologize, so maybe that doesn't get heard, and then decide, oh, let me just take a sip of water here before I start getting croaky throat, and then finish your thought with the mic up above your head. I think this may wrap up our play sessions for today. Not that I'm not having a blast, man. I hope you guys are at least getting some enjoyment out of this, because it is absolutely a delight for me. I'm really enjoying it, and never thought we got to do one more of that side, but I saw that broken block and decided it was time to start getting some wall up. And again, this continues our need for more stone. That didn't go very far at all, but it's a start. And now, yay, we have trees we can chop in the middle of it. So anyway, big rant before I derailed on the mic bump. I like history. I wish math was taught more historically. I haven't looked at this book. It's on my bookshelf in years, but it's called The Discoverers, and I want to say that the author is Daniel Borstein, something like that. Another much more dry text. Some of the other things I've recommended in here, fiction and all that, pretty light, and I caution a lot of people, I try to gauge what your interest in reading is before I just start, because I'm like my movies and my music and everything else, I'm very eclectic in my reading taste. I'm all over the map, and depending on my own feeling that given day, or I'm one of those people, and you others that may relate will smile knowingly as I say this. I'm one of those people that when you say, there's often an internet pass along, or people used to just do it at kind of mixers and things like that. But what's the book on your nightstand kind of deal? Like, what are you currently reading? And I would always laugh and be like, which one of the 5 or 6 do you want me to say? And it's true. I usually have some kind of a light or lighter fiction, and that depends on your outlook. For me, that's some sci-fi. In this currently, as I've alluded to, I'm working on The Dark Tower again for Stephen King. So that's kind of my light reading. I've had not Ansel Adams. Oh man, I'm just totally farting on his name. The guy, John Muir, the naturalist who Muir Woods is named after. I've been plugging away at his biography for since before the pandemic, kind of just piece by piece, plugging away, making progress, and it's biographical. It's particularly in the early editions, it's very narrative, talking about his immigration from Scotland. I can relate to it that way, certainly, for my family, but he talks about his arrival, and how so much of his childhood was and I don't know if he uses these exact words, but kind of a love affair with nature. That's where he found his entertainment as a boy, and his escape from some of his circumstances of life, and I can relate to that. I think he's a very cool figure who was certainly ahead of our times, and we would all think, oh, we're so enlightened, he would love us, because I think you might find he would fit into our world pretty quickly and have some strong opinions on it that may not just glorify us all that much for all our self-assured Is self-righteousness too strong? I'm trying not to just be a complete nerd, but I do as part of my collegiate study. Identifying and becoming aware of bias is a huge part of even the undergraduate study of history. That's one of the things that you have to identify, and we often the media. I don't want to sound political here. I'm not. By and large, I have opinions. I'll share those independently in in real world conversations with some of my friends at times. But again, that's one of those things where IRL you would probably go, "What? This is the person who can just ramble on about a random topic in his stream." I think in the workplace and among company, unless it's a really close friend and they know no matter whether you agree or disagree, you will always be their friend. That kind of stuff. Um, I think politics, religion, and some of that kind of stuff. You don't go deep about what you're sticking your toe in the ground on, because you may find that that changes, or when you fail to live up to what may even be your own expectations for yourself, ultimately that can offend. If you said, "Oh, I stand for this," friends may hold you accountable to that. So I think um, it's better to listen along and find ways to agree with people who may not share your same complete political outlook or on a particular topic. You know, just like with customer service people, keep saying that these are people. They have reasons for what they believe. You're not going to either make if your ultimate goal is to persuade people to see your point of view, which I don't. I think we are overly emphasized, and that's why people become so polarized. They think there's you can see it my way or you can't. And I go back to a Star Wars quote that only Sith deal in absolutes. Well, Sith an American political system, because nowadays if you listen to any of the teams, and I love that reference. These, it's not parties. It's, are you joining a team? Are you going to be the fan or fanatic supporter of one or the other, where those parties, are kind of just out there doing their thing. They like, think of the sports analogy. It's like the NFL, right? With TV contracts and revenue and all that, they may, you may be that hometown loyal fan. I've been to every Bears game in my entire life, and the Bears are the greatest, and do or die, I don't care. Well, I think we've seen it, and probably the Bears are not a likely candidate for this, but, owners in the league themselves, if suddenly there's a more appealing offer to, man, I don't know what the next market is. They keep bannering around um, Europe, or Mexico City, or some of those that for expansion. And I don't want to turn this into particularly a sports rant either, but there's always talk of the next place. Well, now that Vegas has a team and LA is back up to two, they seem to be the revolving door. They're I don't know that they're in a real hurry to move any of the teams anywhere, but you think you've got a loyal fan base and a passionate group of fans, and the next thing you know, your team's packing up and out the door. So it can happen. It's weird how that goes, but um, with with politics, I think it's the same kind of way. You find that while these parties, are out there making sure that they generate enough enthusiasm come elections to stay around and relevant, and right now that's in the United States, as it has been for quite a while, that's exclusively the domain of two parties, really since, the it kind of surfaces one side or the other along the way, but really since the late 90s and uh, what were laughingly kind of the weak attempts of Ross Perot to threaten the two-party system. It's really been 150 years or so since a real real third parties put forward candidates that seriously challenged the established Republican Democrat back and forth. So anyway, for the rest of the world, we apologize. We're sorry you guys have to every 4 years deal with our circus, but I do think when you're dealing with friends and all that, just it's okay to be quiet and thoughtful and listen a little more than you speak. And you don't always have to be right so much as let others feel confident that, this time they're right. Or, even if you don't, be careful with your disagreements that you're not just an idiot for thinking differently than I do, but while I may not agree with the policies of what you're saying, here's what policies or fewer policies, if that's your leaning, I would recommend in their place. Try to what I think a lot of us would like to see in the political discourse. Try to keep those things on topic, and it doesn't have to be about the personality of the individuals, and I think that's where we lose a lot of the details that are deviling or setting themselves. That's what I was gonna do this whole time. Oops, needed a hoe. Fix that piece. Man, that's getting to be a rant. But historically, I think that you want to watch out for not the news and the hyped issues, but what's not being commented or talked about publicly when all in the height of a pandemic. What are some of these massive spending bills where the news comes out that there's a lot of fraud and all that? That's not good, but it's not the end of the world. I think we all know that there will be criminal types out there that will look to capitalize whenever there's a large pool of money out there to be tapped into, and they know that hey, this is being rushed as a spectacle, as kind of a not a placebo, because I know the relief that was passed here in the United States certainly helped a lot of people that were negatively impacted by the sort of shutdown of the economy when it came to the pandemic. And that's a real impact, when particularly the entertainment and travel and restaurant industries were all hit so hard. It's a very real impact for a lot of people that may work multiple jobs to get by in that. It always seems to be that any of these events will always impact the people that are least likely to be able to endure it. And I've said along the way, part of the reason why I have the time to be doing this is the pandemic hit kind of when I was looking at my own career changes. Fortunately, it seems if you purely listen to the news, I am in a uniquely good position to weather that kind of stuff. And, even to the point where I think my family is a little freaked out because the amount of time that's gone by, and they're like, what's going on? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm getting by. As sometimes concerning as it can be, I'm not currently out there pounding the pavement looking for my next job because I worked to the point where I was in a situation where I could do just this. And yeah, down the road it may have some impact, but I do think, so many people say it, not a lot of people are comfortable really doing it. You have to live your life like there may not be a tomorrow. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom or blasé about it. You also have to plan like there may be. You can't just get to a point where you go, oh, yeah, it didn't work out, or I recklessly gambled everything, and now go with your hand out and expect other people to carry your adult responsibilities. It's turning into a rant. I'm gonna try to back off of it discreetly, but it's sad that things like pandemics hit the people that are least able to weather them, either through lack of financial education. I think that's a real thing, and I think that as much as we talk about racial equality and justice in the United States, that's a real topic in the moment, and it's a good one. I think that's an important dialogue to have. But even people that are out there pushing for social change, I think if you flip that conversation and without discrediting the need for social justice, if you say what we really need is educational justice when it comes to finance and just some of those things that are when it comes to marketing and when it comes to financial services or accountability. I think that a lot of this, what I call a dangerous and artificial idea that people should increasingly turn to the government to look out for their welfare. I think that as a historian, regardless of party, and I predict that through this particular episode, people may think I lean one way. I don't. I see particular issues on both sides that I would align with one or the other, and I think if I have any political stripe at all, it's that the two-party system naturally aligns itself to make sure that the majority of people don't have all their needs met on either side, whether by design or by circumstances that will always kind of play in that way. I think, from conversations that I've had, there you may always fall on the side of big government, and then you will fall to the side of small government, more liberty. And so far in the course of current U.S. history, my lifetime in politics, those two things seem to be split between the parties so that neither one represents a full pleasing picture to either side. And I think that the teams are quite happy having that be the circumstance, that both can try to appeal to kind of the natural spread of human inclinations when it comes to liberty and property. The Voltaire stuff of life, liberty, and property. They will ensure that you're always sacrificing one side or the other, and you have to pick a party, and that ensures that neither one will ever give you everything you want, and both will chip away at what you do have from the other side when they come into power. It's just kind of the way it is, and that's life. And these are flawed humans that, just like all the rest of us, are running these systems. So don't expect them to be something they're not. And when if you are of the side that says, I want to look to the government, don't be surprised when a program that works really well for you for a time may not eventually adapt, and when it fails to work the way you thought it would when it was designed, that it doesn't go away. Those are things that just naturally, regardless of team, are the realities. So it is what it is. And I think we'll wrap up the, the ranting portion of this episode on that note. Sorry. Again, I just find these are things that I think about when I play Minecraft. And I'm not heated, but this is why I choose to remain fairly quiet when I'm, out and about in public as opposed to talking. I'd rather listen to what, my friends have to say and know how they feel without trying to make it that they need to, excuse me, a little hiccup there. They need to listen to my answers first. So that, I think we kind of got on this rounded, twisting path by talking about sales, and that sales is a phenomenal job. And I was kind of mocking people because, salespeople who live on commission also, in the course of their work, they're coddling customers and, often selling satisfaction with the product they've already bought as much as they are out selling to new people. Retention is as big as new sales. If you look at a big company's bottom line, just the reality, you always have to be selling yourself back to existing customers as much as you are selling to new, and often you can flip through new customers more easily, but the sign of the health of your business is how willing are your customers to stay with you, because overall they know that you're dependable. This is going back to all the way to the pager stuff that we talked about. It all usually has a train of thought. It's just winding to get there. And I hope you, if you're coming back for this, you now know what you're in for. That you will get some winding thoughts, but that's, again, kind of the beauty of a game like Minecraft. I think in our world, we rarely have the chance to let our ever jumping minds work through a full process. And I think, good or bad, however you come down on the social media culture and Twitter, and short burst Facebook status kind of updates those things. They don't allow us to fully process our thoughts the way that people, in a slower communication age did. We've talked about it in the past. It used to be in a small community, the literate person, when a newspaper came around, would read that, whether it was the general store or the church or the community building, whatever you had, people would gather and hear the news from the world. And it didn't, you didn't even know, that at the same time, things like yellow journalism were happening, where famously Hearst said, I will make a war if we need a war to sell more newspapers. So we talk about media with somewhat our eyes wide open, or at least we clamor for that that awareness that, hey, the media is taking sides, it's got bias. Well, yeah, but it kind of always does, and you have to expect that. And when our past president would get on Twitter and childishly, scream, hey, you can't, I'm not going to let your press people into my press conferences because they don't talk nice about me. Well, you have to understand that whoever owns those media outlets, they likely have a point of view, and they're not, unless they're incredibly magnanimous or so profit driven that they will say, I want to own outlets in both sides because I know that both will make money, and long term, that's what I want is people. And then then you have to wonder, how much of it is fabricated just to have both voices. All that is fascinating to contemplate when and I think friends of mine that have studied communications or mass media as an actual degree, they they have much more our attunement to some of those studies, and I think that's all fascinatingly deep. And I bring a little bit more historical to it, that media has developed to incorporate mass media. It hasn't just always been that way, and there's reasons for that, and there's reasons that it takes the shape today that it does. It's not just a boardroom of megalomaniacal people, from either side, whatever you're thinking, whether it's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or any of those, it's usually not. These aren't people that are sitting around going, "How can we lie to the public and publish falsehoods and all that kind of stuff." No, they're people that go home and have kids and go to soccer practice. Probably, I don't know. Maybe they all live in cities and do city people things and go out to fancy restaurants that I don't do. But whatever their case, they're human beings too, and they're doing a job. And yeah, they may work in a team in an organization that has a particular point of view. That's fine. I advocate and have ever since I was in school and learned, about, hey, compare the front pages of, and, I think it was a friend of mine that was doing the project, but his project was to, over a month or something, it wasn't my project, I don't know, but he basically had to compare the front page coverage of what were then it was probably still the same. I think it was probably, maybe CNBC was bigger back then or something, but it was like, Fox News and, excuse me, CNN, a couple of those, and, compare the front page coverage of the major news stories over a month and then, write a paper about how they all differed or were similar. And sure enough, guess what they saw? It was that different media outlets cover different stories differently, and they prioritize them differently. Well, coming out of an election year, we all know, the two big boys that throw rocks at each other, CNN and Fox, definitely will have their slant. One second. I was fighting a little tickle there. So, just digest your media intelligently. No, nobody is. You can't even claim, even if you don't care anything about news or politics or anything else, nobody else here in the United States, particularly, and probably most of the world, can claim not to know that Fox News, it takes a very right-leaning slant and Team Red, and CNN takes a very left-leaning stance, Team Blue. And what I would advise myself or anybody else when you're out there consuming news is to not shy away and go, man, one or the other or both are so biased you just can't use them. Instead, look at both. Continue, even, in the news of the day or, whatever's going on, when you're looking at stories, look at the coverage of both sides to get a more full understanding of, what they're bringing to the table when they write stories. I think that was a big lesson that I learned and have never given up. And I even to this day, when a news source claims to be independent and offers something, no matter, even if they're independent today and they're purely trying to report without bias, that will change over time. It can't. It's human and institutional nature that you can't entirely avoid bias, no matter what it is, and whether it's your advertisers or whether it's just as we see today, I think these are noble causes, but I think they're prone to spinning out of control and doing damage unintentionally, no matter how well intended they are intentionally. But Me Too, Black Lives Matter, any lives matter, all those kind of things, they are, excuse me again, they are intentionally promoting their agenda. We throw around agenda like it's a bad thing. It's not. They even those, if you don't agree necessarily with the cause, they start out with an intent to promote a cause, and whether that's simply just to increase awareness. Mission statement that we want to increase awareness of social injustice or um, domestic assault or sexual crimes, or date rape. All those kind of things are I think, again, there's always people on the fringe who will misinterpret or overly recoil against them, but those are by and large going to be seen as issues that need to be addressed. From me, both personally and I think more so in the past, and again, this talks to changing times and outlooks and cultures. I don't think anyone would dispute the fact that drunk driving is bad. But, now less so. I think Uber has made a huge difference and is awesome. As a person who grew up and was coming of drinking age in the 90s, I will be the first to admit, there were times when I shouldn't have driven and did. Never, thank God, had any disasters, or hurt in myself or anybody else because of it. But it certainly, had effects, and it certainly wasn't something I should have done. But back in the day, it was just kind of the way things ended up happening. Even if you tried to plan ahead, you can't find a cab, or now, not an issue. Nobody cares anymore. But in the course of combating, I think, and this seems to have played out, but when I was a young child, I think a lot of people disregarded. A lot of people just flat out didn't wear seatbelts either because they thought it was, they were uncomfortable or, whatever. I don't have time to put on a seatbelt. I'm only driving a few miles from home. These were just childish, stupid reasons. It's like masks, the pandemic. I don't want to. It's tough to breathe through a mask. No, it's do it. If there is something that can dramatically improve your chances to either not die or not potentially let somebody else die, no matter how low the chances are, just do it. Over time, it makes a huge difference, just like seatbelts did in the rate of vehicular deaths, among number of drivers. The number of drivers on American roads has continued to grow, but driving deaths, I believe, has continued to steadily decline, and that's pandemic aside, and I would hope has gone down even further since Uber and Lyft and all the ride sharing have become so easily available. Certainly within the last year, nobody's out drinking and driving because nobody's out drinking. I know younger people have continued to meet and go out and pursue social things, particularly in city centers that aren't as spread out, much more than I've just kind of voluntarily gone dark. I see some friends, but I try to control that and say I'm only going to do it, in an outdoor environment that I feel comfortable in. But I know other people have not and have certainly resisted, some of the wide-ranging social recommendations that, hey, this is what we need to do to get in front of this pandemic, and for the sake of your neighbors, support support all these kind of things, and some people hear that and bristle and go, oh, this is government telling me how to live my life. I'm not going to do it. No way. There's not that much benefit. Well, there's not that much limitation either. And I personally think pick your battles when it comes to that. And this is one battle I think it's easy to be on the right side of. And the right side, I think, when we look back on this years later, is, oh, did you resist some potential imposition on your liberties because you had to stay home for a few months and couldn't go out to bars and you know had to, if you really needed to have a drink, you sat out on a deck with some friends and did it at a 6 foot distance. It's so minimal, but people dig in. And personally, I think it's better to think of people and not ever dig in. Again, there's circumstances. You see genocide happening or something like that, time to dig your heels in. You see injustice on the street, time to speak up. If somebody is mistreating a child, or being loud and abusive to what could be a spouse or something like that, and you see it, or you see an obviously uncomfortable woman who's on a date, and someone is being overly aggressive, and then, oh, come on, we're just going to go home. That's the time to step in and, at the risk of looking like an ass, say, hey, is everything okay here? Are you okay going home with this person? Or would you prefer that maybe we just call this one a night? We'll call you a friend to come pick you up. Maybe you guys can, go back out tomorrow night, but let's give it a chance. That's the way to step in, and you're not then saying, hey, years of experience say that's not the time to call out. Let's pursue that little thought exercise, right? You see you're out with some friends at a place. You've kind of noticed, because anytime you go out to a place, you kind of look around at the other people at the restaurant. It's just, we're humans. That's what we do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's, hey, look, those couple tables look like they're on dates, and that's obviously a family birthday party. And what are these people doing? They look like they're just playing drinking games. Watch out for the puke to start flying. That, all that kind of stuff. It's not wrong to look at the circumstances around you and find enjoyment and humor. Maybe your future wife, husband, whatever is sitting right there, and that's the way that we interact as people, is to see those kind of things. But so you're out with some friends, you're having some dinner, you're having some drinks, or watching the game or whatever, and you see what is obviously a date that's kind of it's going in two different directions in two different people's eyes, right? One person, presumably the guy in this case, is thinking that this is perfection, that they are absolutely madly in love and are, about to wrap up dinner to go have some fun. And you see another person who has maybe, checked their watch, their body language, even across the room, is such that they're not into this and they're not comfortable. They're getting less comfortable as time goes on. They're showing, they're that's human body language is such that it sends off those signals to others, and at times those signals can be help, or at the very least, what's going on. They're naturally looking to exits. Their instincts are making them kind of begin to address this, and it's something that horror movies feed on. Again, huge other tangent we could go on. This is just wine-ranging farm day talk, but horror movies seize on the idea that when we get put into uncomfortable or dangerous situations, our bodies naturally react with a certain hard-coded responses, and it's the art of horror movies, good one, and the good ones that are not just completely formulaic, but the ones that build suspense and are not just immediate gore, without, on a shoestring budget and that kind of stuff. And there's a part for those too. Like I said, I've got very eclectic taste when it comes to movies and all that kind of stuff, like a wide range of stuff. But some of the best suspenseful building horror or suspense movies are those where the characters that we're supposed to be rooting for do things that we know as the audience are instinctively wrong in the situation. And it goes back to that, what are all the things that are done wrong in every horror movie? That you don't run upstairs, if you're scared. If at the first sound of a bump, you don't necessarily grab a shovel and, go running to see what's going on. If you're being chased by the gunman that you've so far managed to elude, you don't go diving deeper into the woods. You run for a road and try to get by a car, because odds are, unless they're full on, you've gone into the late 90s movie Heat, where, gunmen have just decided to start mowing down any and everything in the way of their escape. That's not usually how things play out. Even if there's an attacker that's coming after someone, if they successfully get to a public, well-lit place with lots of people around, that will end it, because they're not going to continue to shoot or stab or grab or anything if people around see what's going on and go, hey, wait a minute, what on earth is just slow down. I don't understand what I'm seeing, and you're going to explain it before we just let you continue doing whatever it is you're doing. So those instincts in our hypothetical restaurant situation become visible, and much more so when you're unrelated. You're not listening to the conversation. You're just in the same space. Just try it sometime. If you're out at a restaurant, and you're eating with your family or whatever, and you kind of, you don't stare or be rude or, a jerk about it, but as you're watching around the room, you can kind of get a feel for, okay, who's at dinners, whether it's a date or a family dinner or anything else, who's enjoying where they're at, and who are the people that are like, I'm just waiting for this to get done. Get me dessert and the check, and I'm out. And that can be certainly I think we can all relate to the family dinner where it maybe is as easy as I've got other things I want to be doing, but mom said I got to be here, and so I got to be here. There's relatives or people from out of state. I don't even know, they're my parents' friends, and now I'm supposed to be here and polite and all that kind of stuff. And oh my, you're checking phone, all that kind of stuff. You can see that in other people at restaurants, and it's kind of, again, you don't have to stare or be rude or anything, but in just glancing around the surroundings, you can kind of quickly identify it, with a little bit of practice. But look at the people and go, who's here because it's just a couple of couples out for a night without the kids. They got sitters, and they're just kicking back, enjoying dinner, and trading stories, and it's all casual. There's nothing more there. Who are the people that are just there to watch a game? Who are the people to tie one on? And dinner is a formality. You can see they're going to be 3 sheets to the wind, but they're all having a blast. And who are the ones that may be on dates, right? You can see the couples, and usually there's a little bit of nerves on both sides. Everybody's trying to impress, not dump their salad or their soup all over their clothes, that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff that's cliche. And once you've been on one date, you know the feeling, and it's kind of eye-opening to watch it in a restaurant, become aware of the people around you and what they're doing. Well, once you're aware, you can kind of see quickly, if you've been on dates, and you've seen others, you can quickly become aware. Oh my God, look at it's kind of one that you nudge your friends. You're like, oh my God, look at this train wreck. This is going to be a disaster, right? And it's, again, I'm not trying to imply that that's why I go out, but when you when you when you've been around the block a few times, or when you're an adult, you definitely had your share of good and bad dates and all that kind of stuff. So it's more, oh man, I've been there. Usually, in my experience, if you do see something like that going down, it leads to more, just stories amongst yourself. Oh my God, there was this one time I was in that guy's shoes. It was going bad. She was not into me, but, and I accidentally flirted with a waitress, and that really ended it. She was unhappy, but hey, I got the waitress's number, and the next time we had a bunch better dinner. It leads to that kind of conversation. I'm not saying any of that is anything more than just idle chit chat, but it's those kind of things that are the part of the human condition. Well, you can also see if somebody is awkwardly uncomfortable, and you can see enough signs to know if you know they're concerned as the great exit is beginning, that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that people have to just go around ruining other people's evenings all the time. Use some discretion, and maybe that's where you do nudge other people at the table and say, hey, am I misreading this? But she looks really uncomfortable, and it looks like they're not fighting, but he's being kind of forceful about they're about ready to go kind of stuff, or more so at bars. This is more an adult later on thing where you're out at the clubs and it's getting towards closing time. Maybe somebody doesn't look like they're completely sober, and maybe somebody else is looking to seize on that. Maybe some of your friends, and they may be pissed at you for it. But hey, if it's meant to be, it will unfold naturally. It'll survive one extra night of waking up with a hangover, and then setting it up for another round. If somebody looks uncomfortable, and particularly if there's any kind of harder drugs, or but particularly alcohol, if people have been drinking, step up, do the right thing. Just offer an out. That's all you have to. Hey, it looks like you guys are wrapping up. Is everybody good to go? Can I call anybody, a friend, to come get you guys? Oh, you got a ride? Well, are you going together? Is everybody good with this? I think people will appreciate you, and if they really are good with it, they'll their eyes will light up. They'll kind of get that dirty grin on their face. Yeah, oh, we got busted, but yeah, everything's cool. We're good. If it's not, it will become immediately apparent, and it's one of those instinct things. But you'll know, if you ever find yourself in that situation, you'll know. And it's worth, this is not my intent to go here, but once you've been in those situations, it's one of the, it's like doing a good turn. You get a kind of a rush from it, and this is not something you'll walk away from. You'll usually walk away going, man, I wonder if I really did the right thing, or did I just overreact? But it is an okay feeling to walk away and go, she did say, she said that she really would appreciate if somebody called her own Uber home. And you may never see those people again, but that's the way to, even if you're quiet, and you're not intruding on conversations, and you're not being the person that becomes obnoxious by always trying to be the one that has the answers about politics, or any conversation that you come on. Oh, hey, this is the way you have to think. I know. If you can back off that and be fairly quiet, most of the time, I think people will appreciate that, and you'll learn more about other people. But know that there are times when right is right, and that you do need to stand up, and let your voice be heard. And certainly, if it's the welfare of others, and there's a million scenarios. We kind of walk through one-sided, but kids out there, if they're alone and look upset or look concerned, or you see a parent that doesn't look okay, whether it's illness or anything else, and they're the responsible person for those kids, and things seem a little off, go ahead and be a part of your community. That's what a community, more than anything else, or labels, or groups, or anything else. Community is humans going, this is the time when it really looks like somebody's kind of, with that lip quivering, borderline in, there wouldn't take much for them to burst into tears kind of deal, where you can step in and make a real difference in someone's life, even if it's just for a second, and they may never know who you are. They may never think too much more of it. In some of those circumstances, it may be what could have been the worst night of their life that otherwise becomes totally forget. They may not remember it the next morning. How did I get home? Suddenly I was back home and I took an Uber. I wonder, that then they got the awkward question: should I talk to Billy or whoever it was that was on the date with him? Oh, maybe I was the fool. Well, they can work that out, hopefully, in better circumstances, and no one was the worse off. But you didn't have to become superior, and you didn't have to get in the face of somebody, and that's the flip side, right? I've seen a few of these, more often in bars than restaurant kind of deal, but this is take this with a huge grain of salt, because my experience as such in these circumstances has been, first of all, it's like 15 years too old, and it's going to sound a little sexist, and I know this is not the way it is, and I'm not meaning to apply it, but it's my own personal experience. But I've been in the situation where a date of my own, who female, and they see something kind of in those situations, and their reaction, maybe fueled by a little bit of alcohol of their own, is, you need to go intercede and take care of that. You need to tell that guy to stop. And the scenario I described gives kind of everybody an out. And again, I've had 15 more years to kind of think about some of these things and see some of them unfold. Hindsight is always 20/20, but a lot of times, and I know we sort of got in touching on, like Me Too and some of that. Sometimes the attitude is, this is a potential victim, so therefore the potential aggressor is the monster / whatever, and really it's alcohol and hormones that in other circumstances would be entirely welcome. And that's where that's what I feel is the danger of alcohol, certainly beyond driving, and operating any kind of machinery that could help innocent others. The danger that people get into with alcohol is it numbs the reading of the cues of the people around you. You can't see when your increasingly loud voice is making other people around you uncomfortable, and other people are looking at their watches and saying, "Hey, it's time to go," and you're getting out the bottle to pass it around again, and those are things that may, well, that's why people are attracted to alcohol. It limits your inhibitions, but it also limits your ability to read those signs. So my scenario that I described, where a friend of mine kind of reads a room and goes, "Hey, this is a bad situation. You need to step in." But from her perspective, there's already a literal bad guy in that scenario. We're going to have to get ladders and cut that down. So they in that scenario, and I wish I could kind of take it back. She kind of forced the hand that you need to go confront the guy because he's being too aggressive, and I don't like the way it's reacting. And that it didn't lead to a fight, but it wasn't pleasant. The guy gets upset. What are you doing getting in our business? Then the girl doesn't like it because the guy who maybe she was uncertain of, certainly she didn't want to embarrass him, and she may not have been sure and may not have been looking to do anything further in that scenario. But she comes out and goes, no, what do all of a sudden alcohol is fueling, and now she's got to back her team, right, or not, and make a scene. So all of a sudden, it's back and forth. The two girls are upset. The guy's kind of like, what are you doing? And everybody's got, hands up and kind of back off. Other people have to jump in. Hey, cool down. Hopefully that, in that scenario, no matter what else, it diffused the situation. I think, any thoughts of pushing things kind of went out the window, but there's good ways and bad ways to handle them, and I do think not. My only regret, of some of these movements that have agendas and biases is they want to create. They need to create teams because they want you to have a team and feel that they are your gateway to it. And a lot of times, already by the time those get out to all of our shared consciousness as a mass thing, they've already been taken over by established activist committees, and those people earn their paychecks off clicks, views, and media attention. So they sense that this is their job. They're really good at it. They sense disquiet, injustice. So take what kind of brings this to mind, and what has led to a lot of this is the George Floyd trial just got, and I think in a very good move for justice around the world. I think that no longer in America can police just completely rely on the idea that a code of silence or any kind of blanket idea that they cannot be held accountable for this. And I think that's, I hope that a lot of people are torn. And I think, popular opinion would be, well, Hambbage is a white Western European background American. You can't appreciate that people could be mistreated by police or judged. And I flat out reject that idea. I think that our whole human experience is that, yes, if we truly can't, we're no better than animals, and we don't deserve half the stuff that we think we do because we're just reacting on instinct. I think that empathy and the ability to put yourself in other shoes is not inherently limited if you're of a different race. And I think that we can all be equally repelled by injustice without then having to say that, it's because it happens. And I think we can all agree that it does. And, I think that sadly, the reaction that the George Floyd killing caused was entirely warranted. Everybody saw a video of a man using what amounted to deadly force on a already subdued person, and I think that there's much further dialogue to be had because while that's reprehensible, and I think that there are bad actors, that there wouldn't be outrage if this didn't happen enough so that it became a recurring story. It's the truth, and while while profiling is and has been a real thing, it also, it doesn't mean that you then say, well, just because people have been profiled and have been treated unjustly, that doesn't then give future people carte blanche to flaunt the law, and you don't get a free pass because others, or even you in previous instances, have been mistreated. So we have to empathize. We have to push for social justice, and I'm glad. I'm glad in this case it seems that it was reached, but it doesn't. That doesn't then mean that we join up with teams and say that anybody that's not in that team can never have access, and most importantly, can never empathize, because I think that is the sad undercurrent of some of the pieces of the protests over the past year here in the United States, is that there is a real sense that there are some people that are entitled to be outraged, and others better just get out of their way and be silent and are no longer entitled to comment. And that, that's too far. I disagree with the idea that anyone should not be listened to in any topic or issue. And, I am saddened that in of all the things that came out of the Black Lives Movement, what really made me kind of take some of the attitude that I've articulated here is, early on, my understanding is that the people who purchased the rights to BLM, Black Lives Matter, and were the ones who were responsible for allowing or disallowing its use in certain circumstances, were the same people who said that other phrases would not be allowed, such as all lives matter. And, I look at it as there are other causes that are now having to fight independently for their own, and when I look at it, I guess I grew up in an idealized idea, and, foolishly, I guess, I accepted it and, kind of adopted it, that we, thanks to the civil rights movement in the 1960s, legally we removed a lot of the profiles, and we had a ongoing battle to make it not that everyone got the same life experience, or that we could only talk about things that um, were current and pleasing, and we pretended like others didn't happen. It was that we all had a universal opportunity to grow and sorry, I got lost waiting for this stone to cook and looking off, but we all have a unique opportunity to grow up, pursue our own ideals of what's happiness, and have those same opportunities. Martin Luther King's speech. As a white kid in the Midwest U.S., I embraced that someday little white children, little black children will be able to play together equally, and I see that, and really, ongoing. I've seen that, and that wasn't always the case. And I think in the midst of fighting for current and future justice, we also need to celebrate the good that's coming out of some of these things. And certainly, one of those is play, sports and things. And I can certainly attest that when I was growing up, my childhood sports heroes were a full patina of colors and races and creeds. I like different sports, and different sports had featured different races, and that worked out, and while we can't all claim that we all came from equally populated different racial backgrounds in our schools and our communities and things like that, did we celebrate the diversity that we found there? And I personally think that I tried to. I will be the first to admit, in the context of yesterday's news and today's thing, I unfortunately didn't have a whole lot of African American friends in my school. I had a few, they were, in the words of the show South Park, token was fitting perfectly to my childhood. The people there definitely did. But we had a large Asian population, and some of my best friends, first growing up, back in the day, and then in adulthood, have happened to be Korean. That tends to be the Asian race that I've had the most exposure to, but very good friends from that background, and I've eaten up what culture I could. I also had a lot of Jewish friends growing up that were certainly a minority in my community, but shared a lot of their faith, and not in a evangelical or proselytizing way, but didn't hide it. And so I grew up, knowing about Passover and, Hanukkah and some of the things that they did as traditions, even, side by side with what we did. And one of my very good high school friends was Sri Lankan, or his parents were. He'd been born and grew up around me. So I've always enjoyed learning people's backgrounds and stories, and I find it odd, and maybe this is just my parents' background, but I find it odd that a lot of people don't really know. They didn't have families that celebrated theirs, and I hope we get more chances to talk about these kind of things. This has been kind of a slow, light on action, but heavy on chatting as we wrapped up some of our farming tasks tool, and I got a little deeper. It seems to be, when you go through a few of these recording sessions in a row, your thoughts kind of continue to build, and you do get a little deeper down the rabbit hole. I know that was the case yesterday, and it seems to be today. And had we been out adventuring, maybe that would have been a different case. And I think it certainly would be different if we were in live setting and we're having a back and forth instead of me just sharing my thoughts. But again, I hope that as these wander from topic to topic, they reflect that we're all doing thinking when we have a chance to let our mind go when we play, whether it's a game. I know in pandemic terms, my family growing up, my parents in particular, when I talk to them, they've been doing a ton of jigsaw puzzles. I too, it's clear enough. I've got some outdated type hobbies that a lot of people go, well, that's pretty weird. But just like with Minecraft, if I'm watching TV or a movie or something like that, I like to have something to do alongside just purely sitting on a couch and watching something. Yeah, at times I get sucked in and definitely will do that, but more often I'm just, picking away, and I think puzzles are one of those things that are it's clearly been the case that with the pandemic, those things have a new surge in popularity. Whether you knew it or not, for months as the pandemic started, there were shortages of masks and hand sanitizer and all that. We all remember that kind of stuff, and sort of the rush on paper goods and all that nonsense. But also, jigsaw puzzles were virtually unattainable for quite a while in the early days of our pandemic lives here. People that had them wanted more and wanted variety of them. People that maybe hadn't worked one in a while since they were a kid were like, man, we need a little less time staring at screens. Let's do something we can work on as a family, or like I said, while you're watching other stuff, let develop. So I just checked the time. It's you may have heard the ding as a notification on my system pop back up, but we're already over 2 hours. It's flown by. I know we haven't had quite the adventure that we'd hoped for, but we did get our tree farm up. We've harvested that a few times. Sadly, no bees. As you just saw in our little tour there, the crops are almost ready to go. We'll turn them. We've got our wall in place, and we're going to dump off some of these things. What else do we need to do? Anything? Anything we need to cover? I wish you guys a good evening. It's been a whole lot of fun, and I think we made a whole lot of progress today on our farm, in our mines, in our adventuring around. We haven't really turned back to our staircase and underneath. Maybe that will be the next time we play a few of these in a row. But look at that, man! It's looking good, huh? Still need our melons, but we'll find them. I'm not worried. And our beets, our next time we just picked those, so they're not as ready. They'll probably push pretty far down the row there the next time we get a full seed harvest. But you can see from this vantage how well the carrots are coming along. Potatoes are almost good. And we only have one pumpkin left, so very cool. Looking at our trees, we need to remember our need for ladders. In fact, oh man, so much to do, but we're already over. We've got to wrap it up. Let's make ladders, because that I will forget totally. And I know myself well enough. So, boom, 27 ladders. Whether we use them or not immediately when we get back to going, we shall see. Once again, I want to sincerely thank everybody for listening along. I hope my ramblings haven't. The last thing I want to do is ruffle anyone's feathers. I know I teetered on the edge of a little more opinion, but I hope you guys appreciate or understand that all of these, I approach all these things in real life and over the web as not firm, not absolutes, but things that I would love to listen more to others talk about and understand their perspectives. I don't just agree with everything naturally, but more than likely will listen before I agree or disagree with you. So we'll see how the reaction is. If if any of you feel like sharing one, I'd love to see it, and more than anything, I'd love to see you back for the next video. So please go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know you're enjoying, or if this was too much and we need to get back to game topics instead. I'd be happy to see what people's takes are. Until then, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of other people out there. Be a good member of the community, and more than anything, if you get a chance, listen before you just tell others how to behave. So for now, and as always, take care. I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye now.